So how to deal with the time pressure when one is above 50. It's going to be, it doesn't matter what the age is, because the more that you feel the pressure of time, the more it's going to actually affect your physiology. And part of the work that I do, and really for anyone who's not, if you're not going to be working with me, is really to get into the present moment. And this is something that eckhart Tolle talks about quite a bit in his book, The Power of Now, I think it is. So that might be worth reading, although I haven't read the entire book, but it is very much about being in the present moment. Okay, so some of the stuff that I'm going to teach, it's going to challenge your beliefs. And one of them, because they don't fit kind of what modern science is teaching. It's up to you whether or not you want to believe it. I mean, that's one of the things that I want you to understand, that whatever thought or belief that you have, it's a choice that you make. So anything that anyone presents, whether it's me, whether it's your doctor, whatever's on the internet, it's up to you to choose whether or not you want to believe it and bring it into your own belief system. So I share what I believe in. And so in regards to time, this is one of the things that people have a little bit of, and I did as well, because it took a little time for me to really, because it was so unfamiliar, the concept of it, that it took me time to really adjust to it, to the point where and I have obviously to the point where I'm teaching it now. But one of the biggest concepts of time is that there is no linear time the way that we experience it, of past, present, and future. There's only one moment, and that's the moment of now. Like when you're asking what time is it, you don't say, well, it's like yesterday, or it's tomorrow. It's now. There's only one moment, and everything is in this one moment. All of creation has been created. All of it's done. And so when you impose this age thing, on this age limitation, you've now restricted yourself access to where do I start? You've restricted yourself to all timelines, because everything is in the present moment of the now. Past, present, and future, those are all infinite. Those are all timelines of infinite possibilities. And this is something that's taught more, I think, in advanced manifestation techniques, and those who are really who really understand it. I think if you stay at the basic level of manifestation, I don't think they talk about it too much. But so manifestation is not about creating something from nothing. So it's like a TV set where, and so for those of you who are in the program, which actually most of you are, this is something that I'll go into much more detail. So I'm going to keep reiterating it and repeating it so that it'll eventually kind of sink in. But I'm going to just kind of brush over it, gloss over it, introduce it again, introduce it now. So think of it as a TV set. You have different channels, 2, 4, 6, 7, whatever, right? If you're on channel 2, channel 4, and everything else is still playing, right? It's just that your frequency, your dial is tuned to channel 2. It doesn't mean that the other channels don't exist. They still exist. So your present experience of life is channel 2, for example. What we're doing, and this is kind of what Jackie alluded to with the feeling state, what I'm teaching you to do is to tune into the other channels, the channel that has your desired vision. But if you create a time restriction of it's got to happen now, or because of my age, it's not going to happen, it automatically eliminates so many of those possibilities, so many of those channels. And that's why you have to drop it. And so in dropping it and just focusing on the frequency, on the desire, on the why you want it, you're able to shift yourself slowly over to that other channel, that channel 4, or whatever it is. But you cannot do that if you stay within the belief system of channel 2. So channel 2 will have certain thoughts and beliefs and actions and you do certain outward behaviors because of those thoughts and those beliefs. We have to change the programming. We have to change the broadcasters, the commercials on channel 2 in order for you to shift to another channel. And that's what we're doing. And that's how you deal with the time pressure, kind of in a nutshell, is you don't even think about it because you want to make it as irrelevant as possible. The more importance you put on your age and how much time it's taking, the slower it's going to be because you're creating a lot of resistance. The whole idea of manifestation is that you are removing as much resistance as possible in the form of limiting thoughts and beliefs in terms of what you think is possible. So in meditation, the idea of meditation as because it's very what I do, you're going to be in meditation a lot. This is very much about meditation. And it doesn't have to be like sit down meditation. It can be just mindfulness. And we'll talk about different ways of kind of being in that space. You have to be in that space of just in the present moment and as connected as possible to things outside of you, to the world, to nature, to spirit, whatever it is, whether it's God, universe, infinite intelligence, however you define it. You have to be able to connect with it. You have to know that there's something greater than just you as an individual. Because if you can't get beyond you as an individual, you're only working within the construct of your egoic nature. And if you're in your egoic nature, it's very, very limited because the ego can only work with what it's been exposed to. It does not have access to infinite intelligence, to your intuition. And so we need to break kind of that reliance on the ego of things needing to look a certain way, things needing to happen a certain way. As long as you stay within those confines, it's really difficult to get what we call miracles. And miracles throughout the course of this program is it should become very regular, very routine to have miracles. I consider my life miraculous in the sense that these blessings that I have, there's no way I could have planned for it. There is no way that I could have predicted a few years ago that I would be talking about manifestation and talking about spirituality on the fertility journey. It was never, ever in my consciousness, ever. I grew up I would consider myself atheist, and then as I became a teenager, 20s, I was more agnostic. I became a little bit more open and receptive to something that I didn't understand. And then in my 30s and then 40s, really in my 40s is when I kind of hit what in the people in the spiritual journey called the dark night of the soul. And yeah, it is a dark night of the soul. And for some of you, the fertility journey is your dark night of the soul. For me, it was my divorce. That was when I bottomed out. And so that's when I needed to figure out a way of pulling myself up. And that's when I started my spiritual journey. So my spiritual journey started in my early 40s. So it's only been a few years. And so that's why I love teaching this, is because there's just so much magic in the world that's just waiting for you really at your doorstep, at the threshold. And the only thing that's holding you back is you. It's your thoughts, it's your mindset, it's the limiting beliefs. And so that's what we're trying to dissolve right now, is to dissolve the age, the past history, the medical diagnosis, and for you to connect with the potential. The more that you can connect with the potential and the more it becomes your identity, because for Jackie, the reason why it worked really well for her, and everyone's actually quite different, for her, it worked really well because she made it an identity, that her miscarriages, her age, it didn't define her potential, her reproductive potential. Heather's story is different. Emma's story is different. If you haven't seen Emma's story, the one from Sunday. So this work is really, whatever your situation is, it's really about connecting to your own potential, to the possibilities, the vision that you want. And so, presumably you're considering working with me because the baby is so important to your vision, but it's merely a symbol. Okay, and you have to learn how to connect with the feeling first, because people are in the mindset of seeing They need to see it in order to believe it. Manifestation does not work that way. Life doesn't work that way. That's why so many people are freaking miserable. It's because they need to see the evidence of it first before they believe it. It needs to be reversed. You have to believe in it first in order to see it, but you have to hold on to it steady enough throughout the day, 24/7. And this is the discipline part. This is the challenging part. None of the stuff that I teach is difficult. It's all very simple. And that's actually my mission, is to make it as simple as possible, because I think people overcomplicate it way too much. The ability to be able to get pregnant. I mean, we learned that when we were kids, when we had the birds and bees, either from our parents or we learned it from our friends or through porn, whatever it was. Like, we learned that. We know how a baby is made. We get in our own way. And that's what you have to recognize, is that you're getting in your own way. If you don't have something that you want and you don't feel like it's coming, there are times when, you feel like, okay, for me, I want to call in a partner, a lifetime partner, but I don't feel like it's missing. I feel like it's coming, because I feel like I have to prepare myself for that partner. Because if I get the partner too early, that partner will come, but I won't be able to truly recognize and to truly make the best out of that situation, and that partner may leave. And so for me, it's more of a process of preparing myself rather than calling it in now. And so so that's my manifestation journey for my partner. For you, for the baby, some of you need to do the preparation. Actually, a lot of you need to do the preparation, the inner work of preparing for the baby. You want it now, but there's a lot of that limiting stuff that needs to be released. Because the thing is, if you have fears and doubts now, they're not going to disappear when you get the positive pregnancy test. I promise you, they're actually going to grow exponentially, because then you have real concerns, like real physical concerns. So you have to be able to manage your emotions and to manage your thoughts before you get pregnant. Because this is the reason why I actually extended it from a 6-month program, the way the last cohort was 6 months. It's now 10 months. Jackie came to me already with a very positive, very optimistic belief. Most people are not like that. And that's why I'm extended it to 10 months, because 6 months was like the bare minimum. And then now, like with the 10 months, and then also I've kind of tweaked it a little bit in terms of just getting to the results faster. And so like with the 10 months, it's about getting from where you are now, where you're joining me, or wherever you are now, if you're not joining me, to getting that positive pregnancy test. And then because the positive pregnancy test is just one step of the whole of the 9 months. You still have 9 months to go. Really, the first trimester is the most fragile stage. We have to get you past that first trimester. And so it's not just the positive pregnancy test. We have to be able to have you be able to manage your emotions, so that when the positive pregnancy test comes, you don't flip out. Because a lot of people are flipping out when they're freaking out, like, oh my God, I'm pregnant, or in their 40s, I'm pregnant. What do I do? Is it going to be healthy? Do I need to go to the doctor now? Like, they just really freak out, and I see this a lot. You can't let that happen. And so that's why there's this preparation phase of before you get pregnant. So that's why with most of my clients, it's very, very rare for them and I never say never, because there's always exceptions. It's very rare for women, my clients, to get pregnant within the first 3 months, because it takes time to prepare. And I actually don't like it when they get pregnant within the first 3 months, especially if they haven't been getting pregnant for years beforehand. Not so concerned if they've only started trying. But if they get pregnant within the first 3 months of working with me, it's a fluke. And the likelihood of miscarriage is so high that I actually actively dissuade people from getting pregnant within the first 3 months of working with me. There just hasn't been enough time to allow that mind to settle and to connect with your true nature, the power within yourself. You have to be able to connect with that. And that's what you do within the meditation, with the mindfulness, is you start disconnecting from what society is telling you, from what others are telling you, and you start really connecting with your own inner power, that sovereign power that we all have. And so that's kind of the beauty of this work. Once you get really connected with that, then you can create anything. You can be confident in any situation. When you get slapped down and knocked down, you can get right back up because you understand that it is just another part of the journey. It doesn't have to define the outcome. It doesn't have to be predictive of the outcome. It is just another part of it because it's very unrealistic and it's not going to happen. This is going to be the 100%. It's never, ever, ever, ever going to happen where you're not going to come up against some challenge. Never. You have to learn how to meet the challenge in the face, and then in the face of the challenge, how do you rise above it so that you continue to move forward towards your vision? And it might be that you get knocked down 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. You have no idea. Like, to me, my baby is my business. You have no idea how many times I've been knocked down. This is why most business owners, most entrepreneurs, most of them don't succeed past, I think, the 3 or 5 year mark. It's because there's so much challenges. And so you have to have the same mindset. For me, my emotional journey with my business and with partner, it's the same as your emotional journey with creating the baby. And that's why I understand what you're going through. I get it. And so, but there's another way of approaching it, a much more gentle way of approaching it, a much more graceful and an easy and most of all, fun way, because this should be fun. Life should be fun. If you're not having fun, something's wrong. And that's what we're going to change. And so, yeah. Okay. Here. And then, okay. Hi, Julie. This all makes perfect sense to me. And as a younger woman, I feel a lot of these techniques you're describing came more naturally to me. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to stop right there. I'll read the other question. Yes. It was very natural to us when we were younger because we didn't have the limiting beliefs. So I have a 19-year-old and, you know, and I keep reinforcing. I don't know how much of it actually goes in, but I keep reinforcing, just follow your passion, just follow your excitement. If you do that, don't worry about what other people are doing. Because right now he's actually taking gap years off. He's not in college. I'm like, don't worry about it because neither his dad and I really care whether or not they go to college right after high school. We know he's too smart not to eventually, but we're like, don't worry about it. Just work right now, and just learn the things that you want to learn, because the things you want to learn aren't going to be taught in school. So you're going to be in school for like 4 or 5 years learning stuff that you don't really care about. So just follow what it is that excites you. And so, and I even emphasized that on our call yesterday with my son. It's like, just do whatever it is that excites you, and doors are going to fling themselves open for you. Like, just abundance is just going to keep flowing in. Kids are like that all the time. I mean, they're just like insistent. I want this. And then as parents, we're like, okay, that's abundance. Like, we don't fight them. We're like, okay. So yeah. So as we get older, because of the limitations that society puts on us, we start to become more limited in what we believe is possible. And I think one of the biggest disservices that adults do to children is they tell them to stop imagining, stop daydreaming. And I think that's the most harmful thing that we can do to our children. It's the imagination is how the higher self communicates to the physical mind. We want the physical mind, that logical, analytical part of us, to work with the higher self together as a unit, as a whole person. Otherwise, you're just a half person and halfway. So the physical mind has a purpose. The physical mind is here to help you experience this physical reality. It's to make sense of it all, to allow the experience. Otherwise, we'd just be spirit and energy kind of, I don't know, floating around, right? So the physical mind through the brain is needed. But we also need to recognize that we have to connect. We're always connected. We have to not block. We have to allow the higher mind to guide us, and it guides us through imagination. It guides us through these little nudges and these little pokes of, hey, let's do this because it's more fun. But then our logical mind's like, no, it doesn't make sense because it's not that productive, and I'm not going to get anywhere just by, I don't know, reading a book or going for a walk. It has to be productive, right? And so that's what you're going to learn, is be able to listen to the higher mind, and that's what kind of Jackie was talking about, listening to the body, and we do a lot of that. Okay, going back to the question. Hi, Julie. This all makes perfect sense to me. And as a younger woman, I feel a lot of these techniques you're describing came more naturally to me. Midlife, perhaps for women especially, brings a lot of negative societal views, exactly, and fertility clinics can sadly have quite negative consultants in them. Yes, I agree, because a lot, I can't say, I would say like the vast majority of the women that I've spoken with, they've had very negative experiences with their fertility clinics. That's why I don't really have very many fertility clinics that I can recommend. Like the one that I know is in San Diego. I just can't find fertility clinics that are just supportive of women, regardless of their age. Like, okay, we'll just give this a try, without kind of pushing their agenda on them and trying to get them to, to do all of these techniques and stuff that just really aren't necessary. It's difficult for me to find, and then so once I find them, then I put them on a list. But then everyone's experience is different. So I'm like, some people say it's a great experience, and others say it's not. I'm like, crap, I'm starting from scratch again. So yeah, I mean, it's tough, and that's why you have to be really solid within yourself, because if you don't have a choice in terms of changing clinics or doctors, and you're kind of stuck with the person, even though they're negative, you're going to have to be really strong internally to be able to withstand that. And just be able to see them, okay, they're just offering a service. They're just offering a service, no more. I don't need to listen to any of that. It's like my house, like if I had someone clean my house and all, and I didn't have any other option other than this person, then they kept complaining about their lives or something, I'd just be going to another room and that's not listening to it while they're cleaning, or I wouldn't be in the house. So you're going to have to learn how to develop a really thick shield in those instances when you can't find a doctor that's more supportive, which is kind of actually, unfortunately, the majority of the case. And so that's something that we will work on. Do you teach ways of releasing or decompressing from the negativity of such environments and social attitudes? Yes. So that is kind of this is the practice. There isn't like one thing that you do. That's why, like, when people ask for one-time consults with me, I just don't give them, because there's no value in them. Because the thing is, I'm saying what applies to them at that moment in time, what they're presenting to me on that call. The next day, it might be different. It has to be fluid enough that you can be able to navigate this, whatever comes up. And I'm giving you the skills it's like I'm teaching you to fish rather than giving you the fish itself. You need the skills to be able to navigate the emotional roller coaster. You have to be able to navigate the hits and the stumbles, and not the literal stumbles, the metaphorical stumbles. You have to be able to pick yourself up when that happens. And so I'm giving you the skills to be able to. So yes, you are going to be learning how to release or decompress. You will be learning to transform the negativity. And so and this is kind of a primer for those of you who are going to be working with me and those who aren't. The negativity is just, you're filtering it through a specific lens. So just recognize that anything that you feel triggered or activated by, or like frustrated or doubt, any negative emotion that comes out of any type of experience or interaction, it's because you're viewing it, you're perceiving it through a very specific lens of belief, of thought. And so you need to change it so that you come more into a neutral space around it. And that is the key to be able to handle life in general. And so this is something that we're going to practice over 10 months. So don't worry about it now. It will eventually just kind of drop. Okay. For those who are not working with me, just understand, I think the easiest takeaway is change the thoughts and the beliefs that you're allowing that to filter through. If you look at things from a negative point of view, then the result will be negative. Whereas if you change the lens and your perspective more towards positivity, towards a positive bent, then the outcome and the result will be more positive. Oh, and actually, so like with Jackie, I said, now that she's in her second trimester, in terms of labor and delivery, I'm gonna stop like when Heather comes on. In terms of labor and delivery, she has to view it through the lens of it being a quick, easy beautiful delivery, rather than the lens of it's painful and it's hard and it's just like, you know, your guts are dropping out, because that's what we're exposed to in media. But yeah, so it just completely depends on what it is. The same experience can be altered depending on how you look at it. And so we're going to learn how to do that during the program. Okay. And then if you're not working with me, just I don't know of any resources specifically like that will teach it. It's a practice. It's not something that just comes overnight. It's a practice. And I've said this before, Abraham Hicks. I'm a huge follower of Abraham Hicks, and I love Abraham Hicks. I would recommend listening to Abraham Hicks, because they talk about that, looking through it from a positive, like the way they call it, it's like just following your feel-good feelings or something like that. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions? For the first session, well, I think we're going to do the second session is when I'll talk about the vision, kind of what Jackie said is really identify what it is that you want, and kind of going deeper and more to the emotional level, because that's a really critical part of, and I actually wrote about this in an email. It's like people visualize, but they stop at the visualization because they think that since they have the image, they can stop there. And that's typically how visualization is taught, is that, okay, you just kind of have the picture of it. It's not the picture. It's the emotion. When you want something this much, which is the baby, yeah, you can manifest like a parking spot. Like I practice on parking spots. You can manifest a parking spot with just an image. It's because there's no emotional connection. It's like if it happens, it happens. Not a big deal, right? But like with a baby or a partner, relationship, there's a lot more emotional ties to it. There's a lot more neediness for it to turn out a certain way. So it's really difficult to, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's really difficult to be able to just create the image and just completely let it go. Because really, ultimately, manifestation, if you're truly doing manifestation, is you set the intention and the desire and you completely let it go. You don't even think about it anymore and you just leave it. That's actually what happens a lot with younger women in their 20s and their early 30s, is they say, okay, I want to get pregnant now. And then it eventually comes. So they don't sweat how much time it's going to take. Typically what happens in what I've seen in women in the 40s is they set the intention that they want to have a baby, and then they start getting panicked within the first month. It's like, oh shit, it didn't happen yet. And then with each month, they become even more panicked. Like it starts immediately now. And I've seen that. So there's this negative pattern that starts almost immediately as soon as they set the intention. There's no like leeway at all in terms, and you know, some people I've talked with, they start like IVF almost immediately, like 6 months after trying naturally. I'm like, that's like putting the seed in the soil and then coming back 10 minutes later and saying, where is the sprout and where's the flower? There's not enough time. And so that's really true manifestation, is you set the intention and you completely drop it. And so we're actually in the program, you're going to set the intention, activate the vision, and you're going to drop it for a while. You're going to drop it for a long time. And because we're going to work on the internal stuff that is related to baby, but not related to the baby. Because you got to get yourself really centered and grounded. Because if you're just kind of flowing with, you know, the emotional winds, you're an untethered boat out in the vast ocean. And you probably feel like that. So you have to tether yourself to who you are.